What is up, guys? Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Today's video is going to be the biggest robberies in the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. This is going to be interesting because I don't follow too much hockey, but I do know I did some research on it, so we will see where lands where, I guess. So, NFL. We got the tuck rule. So let's talk about this crazy moment in NFL history. This happened in the 2001 NFL season on January 19, 2002, between the New England Patriots and the Oakland Raiders at the time. So, near the end of the game, obviously, the Patriots were losing, and their quarterback, of course, the GOAT, Tom Brady, dropped back to pass. As he started to throw, he obviously changed his mind, and he tried to tuck the ball back into his arm. Legend Charles Woodson, he hit Brady, and he obviously caused him to fumble. The Raiders obviously recovered the fumble. You know, it seemed like it was over, and the Raiders were going to go back to the conference championship game because the Raiders were ahead. But, you know, the refs, they stopped the game to review the play. Even though Brady had lost the ball, he was actually trying to pull the ball back to his body. In other words, it meant that it wasn't a fumble. It meant it was an incomplete pass. So, of course, the New England Patriots, they kept the ball instead of losing it. You know, the Patriots were able to keep the drive alive, and they went on to tie the game and win it in overtime. I think about a decade ago, they got rid of the tuck rule. You know, a lot of debates about it upset fans. This changed pretty much the course of history. It was the start of a dynasty for the New England Patriots and the start of heartbreak for Oakland Raider fans. You see that Charles Woodson and Brady, they have a lot of respect for each other, but I think Woodson in the back of his mind is like, hey man, you owe me one. Yeah, but let's go move on to the NBA one. We got the 1988 NBA Finals Game 7, Bill Laimbeer fouling Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Happened between the Detroit Pistons and the Los Angeles Lakers. So obviously Pat Riley, he views it as, you know, the phantom call, which is one of the most obviously controversial shots in NBA history. So it was in Game 7, obviously Bill Laimbeer, the Pistons, was defending him. Kareem shoots the ball, and the referees caused really, really bad foul because it looked like Laimbeer barely touched him. You couldn't really see any real contact. Kareem, he obviously got to shoot free throws, and guess what? The third best player of all time, in my opinion, he knocked them both down. And that obviously gave the Lakers a championship. A call that Pistons fans certainly can't forgive or forget. Obviously, Kareem, he says that Laimbeer fouled him because, you know, what's he gonna say? This is a little bit interesting. A lot of people could say the 85 World Series, you know, but I'm going to go with Armando Galarraga's 28-out perfect game. I felt so bad for this. Happened on June 2nd, 2010. You know, he was pitching for the Detroit Tigers, obviously, against the Cleveland Indians. Jason Donald comes to bat. You know, he's the 27th batter. A rare feat in baseball. You know, Galarraga, he covers first base. You know, he catches a throw. He looks like he's out, right? I mean, you clearly see that he's out. But Jim Joyce, the first base umpire, he called Donald safe. And unfortunately, at the time for MLB, there was no replay at the time. So it couldn't really do anything about it. And it was obviously heartbreaking for the Detroit Tiger fans. It was probably the most upset that Tigers fans have ever been after a win. So it was just like, it was ruined. And yeah, replay does show that Donald was actually out. And at least Jim Joyce, you know, he owned up to it. He still says it haunts him to this day. You know, obviously called balls and strikes the next day and took the lineup card and everything. Like, obviously Tiger fans probably won't forget, but at least he owned up to it. This is actually kind of interesting. I think a lot of people like know Galarraga more for this perfect game because of the messed up call got a lot of headlines. And, you know, how they handled the situation was great. If this was like Angel Hernandez, you wouldn't expect him to apologize like this, right? Hats off to Joyce, but, you know, it was a terrible call. Moving on to the NHL, guys, I don't follow too much hockey, but I do know that this game was in triple overtime. It was intense, obviously. Brett Hull of the Dallas Stars, you know, he scored the game-winning goal. The Stars won the cup, but if you look at that play, skate was in the crease, in the goalie's crease. To be honest, guys, I don't know what that means. I'm really bad at hockey terms, but, you know, that would disallow the goal at the time. There was like a confusing like memo going around that like it's okay if the player has full control of the puck. So the goal, obviously, it stood. Stars won. A lot of the fans and players were upset, and I think that had to do with like some rule change in the NHL. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I wanted to include NHL just because of the hockey fans that may be on here. But yeah, those are the 4 biggest robberies in every sport, in my opinion. This doesn't just include a game outcome or anything like wins and loss, but I think it's just like in history how they're going to be remembered. These two are complete ops. Angel Hernandez and Ron Tolbert. Even just MLB and NFL umpires, those are my 2 biggest ops in sports. Yeah, these are the 4 biggest robberies. Like, comment, subscribe again, like I said, and I'll see you guys later. And I hope you don't ever have a game where these two are calling your teams.